The Treaty of Versailles marked the end of the First World War. Germany was hit hard with the demands of the treaty. Germany had to pay 132 billion gold marks, 33 billion US dollars, demilitarize the Rhineland and the German Sudetenland. It limited Germany's army to 100,000 troops, 6 battleships, and Germany could not have an air force. The treaty was all about punishing Germany.
That was a gruesome war. 20 million casualties.
Let's not let that happen again.
We should make Germany pay 132 billion marks.
We should also decrease Germany's military size by 100,000 troops.
We should also decrease Germany's borders and demilitarize the Rhineland.
This won't lead to any more wars down the line.
That's called foreshadowing.
Mussolini has now become the dictator of Italy. He is the youngest Italy leader so far. Hirohito has now become the Emperor of Japan on Christmas Day. The date is now October 24th, 1929, and the stock market has crashed due to stock prices in New York Stock Exchange plummeting. Hitler has become the new Chancellor of Germany under the Nazi Party. As also due to hyperinflation, a loaf of bread costs 200 million marks. The German troops entered Austria on the 11th of March, 1938. Austria has now officially annexed by Germany. Hitler is taking more and more land as a way to prepare his forces for an upcoming conflict. Many Germans live in Austria. When Hitler eventually takes over most of Europe, he already has a sizable population that he believes will be sympathetic of this cause.
The Munich Pact of 1938 was a meeting between Hitler and the Allies. The Allies let Hitler have what he wanted, which was the German Sudetenland and Czechoslovakia. They also promised that if Hitler were to invade Poland, France and Great Britain would both declare war on Hitler.
Why are we here?
So we can tell things are getting a little bit toasty.
We want to calm things down.
Okay, all I want is Sudetenland. It is full of German citizens.
Okay, but nothing else. Also, if you invade Poland, me and my allies will declare war on you.
Okay, I'll do that.
What about me? It's my country.
No one cares about you, Ed Barb.
All you have to do is sign this paper.
Okay.
I have solved the conflict in Europe.
Hitler is invading the rest of Czechoslovakia.
Are you sure?
Yes, he took it all.
Oh, crap.
We have successfully annexed the Kingdom of Albania. It only took 2 weeks, just like our friends in Germany did to Czechoslovakia 7 months ago. I hope Hitler will love me now.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
The Pact of Steel was signed on May 22, 1939. Both countries would help each other financially, militarily, or in any other way. It was signed by Benito Mussolini and Hitler, later to be Hirohito of Japan.
I would like to welcome you, Benito Mussolini, to Berlin on May 22nd, 1939.
I am glad to be here, Hitler.
Today we officialize our friendship in the Pact of Steel.
With us signing this, it tells the world that if one of us goes to war, both of us will go to war with them.
If we go into financial trouble, I'll lend you some money.
If you need any help at all, I will help you.
And so will I.
Let's sign the treaty.
Japan has been widening their sphere of influence. They are about to go full-scale war with China, but they don't have a reason. Japan's main goal is to get resources to fuel their huge war machine. Japan officially goes to war with China when there's an incident on the Marco Polo Bridge. Gunfire is expelled from Japanese guns, and then China fires back. This starts the Second Sino-Japanese War. The German-Soviet Non-Aggression Pact was signed on August 23, 1939 between Hitler and Stalin. It stated that they would attack Poland together and meet in the middle. They will also not attack each other for the next 10 years.
Hey Stalin, why don't we attack Poland, as a team?
Okay, comrade. Sounds good.
And then we'll split it half and half, and I promise not to betray you in the future.
That's a great idea.
Hitler's friendship with Stalin and the Soviet Union was a smokescreen. Declaring an alliance allowed Hitler to move beyond into Poland's borders without fighting a two-front war. Hitler wanted to take resources from the Soviet Union, like oil and more oil.
Hey Stalin, let's pump some iron. You attack Finland with hopes you'll get Sweden to protect the iron fields.
You got it, boss. Let's pump this up.
Hitler attacks Norway in an effort to protect his expansion from being outflanked to the north. At the time, the Soviet Union was protecting this flank to the east by battling the people of Finland. This also protected the iron fields in Sweden. The iron was very important to Hitler's war efforts. Without Sweden's iron, Hitler could not keep the pace with his war preparations. Chamberlain was desperate to show his people that he was competent to produce victory. The problem was Hitler could not be trusted. Still hedging his bets, Chamberlain sent troops to Scandinavia to shore up his trust in Hitler. Hitler attacked Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. Stalin attacked Finland. After Hitler went back on the Munich Pact, Chamberlain realized he backed the wrong guy and resigned his position as Prime Minister. Enter Winston Churchill and his bulldog.
We are not going to war. Hitler promised he would not attack Sweden for the iron. He promised!
I promise I will not attack Sweden for the precious iron. I promise!
I guess Hitler could not be trusted. He took Sweden's iron after all. I quit!
As soon as German forces started marching through Belgium on September 28, 1940, the Allies were waiting on the other side of the border. British and French troops charged into Belgium. Everyone thought it was going to be a repeat of the First World War, but Hitler had a trick up his sleeve: Blitzkrieg. The key to Blitzkrieg was to not fight at all.
If Hitler even steps in Belgium or the Netherlands, we will take charge.
This will be fast and easy. Let's not have a repeat of the First World War.
Hitler was a very smart military commander. While British and French troops were charging into Belgium, Hitler sent refugees towards the charging Allies. The refugees confused the British soldiers, slowing them down. Then they penetrated the Ardennes, a poorly defended area. This allowed them to encircle the Allied forces at Dunkirk without fighting at all. With the majority of French forces destroyed at Dunkirk, Hitler controlled the rest of France in a matter of weeks. What the Germans couldn't do in all of World War I, Hitler had done in a matter of weeks. With the fall of France, Hitler turned his attention to Great Britain. Hitler started bombing British cities, ports, and including nightly raids on London, crippling the RAF and forcing the US to pour supplies into Britain. Over time, the British resolve regained air superiority over the British Channel. As a result, Hitler knew he was not going to conquer Britain through a land invasion.
Welcome to Berlin, Mr. Mussolini and Mr. Hirohito.
Glad to be here.
Glad to be here.
Today, we let the entire world know that we are the bestest of allies.
We all have each other's back until the end.
Shall I propose a toast to us in the three everlasting empires?
Can drink to that.
Hitler has had some staggering victories in Europe. I want some too. Is there anywhere in the world that if I were to invade, they would be attacking us with literal bows and sticks? Ha! I already have an idea. Ethiopia! I'll just take that, and maybe Hitler will look at me like he does himself. British Somaliland, are you ready to get destroyed by Mussolini and Italy?
Yeah.
You shall die! We just kicked Britain's butt in Somaliland. Now we take Egypt. It might even make Hitler proud of me.
So Mussolini did. He took Ethiopia and British Somaliland with ease. He then turned his focus on British Egypt, and it went something like this.
Egypt, are you ready to get wrecked again by Mussolini? Ow, you suck! Now to Greece. Maybe Hitler will be proud of me then.
Mussolini started the campaign in Greece with high hopes. Mussolini entered Greece through Italian Albania. He was surprised by the amount of Greece's forces. Instead of retreating like he was told to, he wanted to bring pride and glory to Italy. He invaded and was shortly pushed back into Albania. In this short attack, Italy lost over 100,000 troops.
Oh, I'm gonna kick your butt, Greece! 100,000 men!
Churchill started to refer to Italy as Europe's soft underbelly. Churchill also started to favor a southern attack. Churchill landed troops in Greece to try to push northwards. This started to concern Hitler.
Hey, I just got my butt kicked. I need help.
What the heck, man? He's supposed to destroy Greece!
I know I lost 100,264 men. I'm
You
sorry.
stop!
Okay, well, can you come help me
Well,
then?
if you won't get done, I'll go do it myself!
Okay.
And he did, but he had to do a little bit of convincing to get troops from Germany to Greece. First, he was getting pretty friendly with Hungary and forced them to sign the Tripartite Pact. Romania was also eager to join for protection against the Soviet Union. He forced Bulgaria and Yugoslavia to join so he could march troops to Greece, but not only Greece. This small kerfuffle in Mussolini's plan took a lot longer when he was expected to win rather quickly. During the whole Greece kerfuffle, Japan was putting in work in Indochina. They had disabled China and invaded Vietnam, and had obtained some key airfields that scared the US. They were also threatening parts of Australia. Due to key airfields that were pretty scary to the US, Roosevelt inflicted an oil embargo on Japan. The US was where 80% of Japan's oil came from. This made the Japanese furious, so they started to plan an attack on America.
Japan, you're getting too hot. I'm cutting off all oil with you.
I'm just gonna attack you.
Japan wanted to expand their sphere of influence southwards, but the US and Great Britain controlled a lot of southern Oceania. Since the US was not selling oil to Japan anymore, they had to find another place to get it, and they found it in the East Indies and Borneo. They had to get the oil from there since they had no other option to. Japan knew America's Navy would destroy Japan, so they thought, why don't we just destroy the Navy before we start our conquest?
No other place to get oil. We must take it from Borneo in the East Indies. And we must destroy Pearl Harbor so the Americans cannot get their fleet out of the water.
On December 7th, 1941, Japan conducted a surprise attack on the US. The attack was a huge Japanese success, but a terrible loss for the US. The attack sank 6 US ships and damaged 169 aircraft. It also killed 2,403 servicemen and women, but the Japanese were stupid. They did not attack any of the naval repair yards, fuel storage tanks, or the submarine base. It was only a matter of time before the Pacific Fleet was back up and running. Pearl Harbor caused President Roosevelt to declare war on Japan. That also caused Churchill to declare war on Japan too. But it also caused Germany to declare war on the US.
I declare war on the US.
I declare war on Japan.
And I declare war on the United States.
This also helped Japan out a lot. Immediately after the attacks on Pearl Harbor, Japan attacked key places to expand their sphere of influences, like the US and British bases in the Philippines, Guam, Wake Island, Malaya, and Hong Kong. All of these attacks were on speed, not power. And power is what would defeat them in the end. Both Roosevelt and Churchill warned Stalin of an impending attack. But Stalin thought that Germany would stay true to their German-Soviet non-aggression pact that they had signed in August of 1939, which clearly stated that they would not take any military action towards each other for the next 10 years. But Hitler knew all along that he was going to expand eastward with his idea of Lebensraum, German living space. With 3 million troops, Hitler launched the largest ground invasion in history in a surprise attack on Russia. Stalin was not ready for an attack like this. Hitler used circling movements to make large wins.
I captured 250,000 Soviet soldiers at Byakuminsk, 300,000 captured at Smolensk, 660,000 captured at Kiev, 660,000 captured at
The eastern front of the war was brutal for all ethnic people who endured it. The Germans got extremely close to Moscow, 19 miles to be exact. If Moscow fell, the rest of Russia would fall with it. But Russia was saved by Mother Nature. Brutal Russian winter set in as soon as Hitler was about to crush Moscow. Hitler had not equipped his soldiers with winter gear because he thought that Stalin would have surrendered by now. Instead of Germany settling down for the winter and regrouping, Hitler told his troops to push on.
Can we please dig in for the winter or wait until spring?
No, keep going!
Commander, we're having to leave the corpses of our frozen soldiers and our frozen horses on the side of the road.
That's fine! Keep going!
Oil is literally freezing inside of our tanks.
Perfectly normal! Keep going!
At this moment, Stalin called in troops from the Siberian front that were trained for winter warfare. The Germans were outmassed and pushed pretty far back. They had no choice but to dig in and wait. During this time, the world was kind of taking a breather. The Germans weren't attacking Russia anymore, or anybody else. Japan was kind of chilling out, and Italy wasn't doing much. While this was happening, anybody who spoke up against their new rulers were killed. The Holocaust started by rounding up major amounts of minorities and persecuting them in concentration camps. 6 million Jews perished in the Holocaust.
Go! I said go!
When spring rolled around, Hitler decided to change things up a little bit. He wanted to cut the Soviets off from the Caucasus, an area filled with oil, and then invade the Caucasus and take all the oil. His forces moved quickly and almost cut off the Caucasus, but Hitler got cocky. He rerouted the 4th Panzer Army south early, leaving the 6th Army to complete the encirclement of Stalingrad. The Russians defended it well and defended it for 5 months, which bought Stalin some time. While the Germans were waiting for spring, Stalin was moving all of his factories eastward. When Germany had first attacked Russia, they did not have enough resources to fight the Germans. But with the winter and the attack on Stalingrad, Stalin had enough time to prepare the Germans for the second time. Stalin's new and improved army was ready to be tested in Stalingrad. The Soviets resembled the Germans and did an encirclement move around the city and trapped the 6th Army. Hitler would not retreat, for he thought it to be cowardly.
Hitler, they're encircling us at Stalingrad. What do you want us to do?
Never retreat!
Okay.
This turned out to be the turning point of the war in the West. Hitler was pushed all the way back to Berlin. It was also not looking good for Hitler on the western side. With America now in the war, there was a lot of bombing over German cities. In Africa, the British had started to push the Axis out of Africa with a decisive victory at the Battle of El Alamein. America and British divisions pushed from west to east. British and Australian forces pushed from east to west, squeezing the Axis out of Africa. In the east, Japan tried to attack the islands of Midway, but the U.S. Navy was ready for the attack, and the Americans wiped out the Pacific Fleet. The U.S. sunk 4 of Japan's aircraft carriers. The Japanese Navy would never recover. The Japanese were also being pushed out of the Solomon Islands and New Guinea. The Americans were moving on a large island hopping campaign, which was some of the deadliest parts of World War II. With the Axis out of Africa, the Allies didn't know what to do next. Churchill wanted to attack from the south and then travel north, but Roosevelt wanted to attack from the west and travel east.
I want to attack from the south.
Okay, I want to attack from the east and go west.
We'll do it my way. If it doesn't work, we'll do it yours.
Okay.
Forces successfully landed in Sicily and went north. They were also carrying out bombing raids over Rome. When the soldiers landed in Italy, many of them had relatives that lived in Italy, so they were welcomed to the Italian peninsula. Once the war reached home territory, most Italians were against war. Mussolini was voted out of his own fascist council and was toppled from power. Italy immediately began negotiations for surrender. Hitler thought this would happen, so he sent down reinforcements. While Nazis were heading south through the Italian peninsula, they were disarming Italian soldiers. Allies fought all the way through the Italian peninsula until the winter sets in. And winter means mud. Everything kind of came to a standstill.
Okay, Roosevelt, let's do it.
Okay, that's what I've been saying the whole time. But where?
The beaches of Normandy.
Okay.
America became the arsenal of democracy. Factories around the clock were pumping out more and more weapons and munitions. American industry turned out 11.6 million rifles and carbines, 2.8 million pistols and revolvers, 2.3 million submachine guns, 1.5 million crew-served machine guns, and 188,000 automatic rifles, nearly 19 million small arms, plus 47 billion rounds of small arms ammunition. These were all prepared for the storming of Normandy. This was all fine and dandy, but they needed the brains behind it. Enter Dwight D. Eisenhower. With Allied deception tactics, the Germans thought that the attack was going to be on Calais, but it was actually on Normandy. The British weather slowed down the invasion for a short while, but then it happened. It was time for the last dance. On the night of June 5th, paratroopers landed behind enemy lines, tasked with foiling defense and securing bridges and roads. Early in the morning, battleships fired shells onto the beaches, and then by late afternoon, soldiers were landing on the beaches in 5 platoons. 2 American platoons on the westernmost side of the beach, and then the British in the middle, Canadian and more British troops in the east. The Allied troops created a beachhead. This was the turning point of World War II. From that point on, they took the port of Cherbourg and the city of Caen. Then, in a huge embarrassment to the Germans, the Americans to the south and the British to the north encircled the 7th Army. In August, Allied troops landed in the south with little to no resistance. On one of the southern beaches, all they saw was a Frenchman handing out champagne.
We're back to land on the French border.
Me and me sont les bienvenus chez France Libertoise. Would you like some champagne?
Yeah.
In September 1944, France was liberated and Allied forces entered Belgium. In the east, Japan was pushed out of Burma. The U.S. was also launching a 2-pronged attack. One attack from the south into the Philippines, and one brutal island-hopping campaign in the east. The Japanese believed that the most dishonorable thing you could do was to die in battle or to surrender. The Battle of Iwo Jima was the bloodiest battle of the Pacific Theater in World War II. The Japanese would never surrender unless they were to die. Of the 21,000 Japanese soldiers that were on the island before, only 216 were captured. More than 6,800 Americans were killed and 19,000 Americans were wounded. The goal was to capture the island's airfield. The airfield would give close enough proximity for U.S. bomber planes to hit the capital city of Tokyo. The Battle of Arnhem was a German victory when everyone thought that Germany was written off. This was a series of last-minute battles that saw all of what was left of Germany's strength in full action. The Battle of the Bulge saw what was left of Germany's resources exhausted. After these few series of battles, Hitler's mental and physical health was deteriorating. American and British troops to the west and Soviet troops to the east, they both squeezed what was left of Germany. April 30th, 1945, the world is stunned when they hear that Hitler has committed suicide.
I can't surrender if I'm dead. The 1,000-year right has failed.
9 days after Hitler commits suicide, Germany surrenders. Germany is split in two and the rest of Europe is in shambles. The world would never forget this war. Now with 2 of the Axis powers knocked out, all that was left was Japan. The only island that needed to be taken was the island of Okinawa, the last island before the Japanese mainland. The Okinawan people fought hard, launching kamikaze attacks on American ships. This siege lasted 82 days of non-stop battle. 49,000 American casualties occurred at this island, 12,000 of them being dead. The war was almost over, and this was the last hurrah. The first A-bomb test happened on July 16, 1945, in New Mexico. The US and Great Britain wanted to show a lot of force to the Soviet Union, who was occupying territories, not liberating territories. Americans were also exhausted from the war, and the quickest way to win the war was with the A-bomb. The first A-bomb was dropped on Hiroshima on the 6th, and the bomb on Nagasaki was dropped on the 9th of August. These bombs turned these cities into rubble, and with the threat of a third from the Allies, Japan officially surrendered on September 2nd, 1945. At last, the Second World War was over. The end of the Second World War left a huge scar on the world. 75 million people died. Compared to World War I, that is a staggering increase. The world took a long time to recover after a huge war. Europe's economies were destroyed, and there was a new war brewing amongst the world. But it was a very cold war.